It is my task to introduce our first speaker. Daly is the director of the Community College Consortium for Open Educational Resources, a division of the Global Open Education Consortium. CCCOER is a community of practice for achieving the Dreams OER degree initiative, the largest nationwide initiative in the United States with 38 colleges in 13 states. CCCOER also provides technical assistance and support for the California Zero Textbook Cost degree program. Zero textbook costs are something that we heard about earlier last year and has been growing across the country. Una has also served as the OER Library Services Manager for the California Open Online Library, a repository of low-cost, peer-reviewed open textbooks for the top 50 college courses. Prior to joining the Open Education Consortium, she was Director of the College Open Textbooks and the portfolio coordinator for the California Virtual Campus and Foothill College, where she taught in the Computer Technology Information Systems Department. She holds a master's degree in teaching and learning with technology from Santa Clara University and an online teaching certificate. Her initial career was in the computer industry, where she was a software engineer and manager at Apple, Freecom Corporation, and Motorola. Please join me in welcoming our first speaker of the morning, Una Daly.
Well, I am just so honored to be here this morning with all of you. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. To open this OER Summit. John didn't mention, but we have a long history with Florida Virtual Campus. You know, one of our founding members back in 2008. I think John was there when we worked with a number of his folks on the Orange Grove. So it's just very, very exciting to be here. And today, we're going to talk about leadership in the open space. And I know that we have folks from all different walks of colleges and universities, and it's about leading from where you are, whether you're technical staff in the library, whether you're in the bookstore, whether you're an administrator, and of course whether you're a faculty or a librarian. And I probably left out some. So I wanted to ask you, how many faculty do we have? Oh, wonderful. That was more than I expected. How about faculty librarians? Okay. And some of the same hands went up. Instructional designers? Great. And administrators? Okay. And how about student services? Good. Student services are key to this. And it comes sometimes after the development of the resources, but the outreach. So I'm so glad whoever is here for student services. Wonderful. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about CCCOER. We are a community of practice, as John mentioned, for open education. We were founded about 11 years ago. And our mission hasn't changed really dramatically in that time period. It's about expanding awareness and access to OER. And we do that through supporting faculty choice. We provide a lot of online development that's open to all of you. On a monthly basis, we do webinars, but we do other events as well. But ultimately, it's all about improving student success. What I will say has changed, what has changed the most in that time period is the availability of open educational resources, open textbooks for the first 2 years of college. And then what's evolving now is an area called open educational practices. And I'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes. And it's sometimes referred to as open pedagogy. So what does open education make possible? And that's very exciting. And I mentioned here the programs that I worked with, that John covered all of that on these OER degree and CTZ degree pathways. So these are entire pathways where the courses have been converted to use OER or zero textbook cost materials. And it's making a huge impact for students, but it's also an amazing opportunity to redesign your courses and to align them more closely with the outcomes that your learning outcomes that you want for your students. So we have members now in 33 states, and very proud to say that Florida Virtual Campus, Broward College, and Santa Fe College are longtime members. Is there anyone here from out of state? All right. Where are you from? South Carolina. Wonderful. Trident just joined us. So, I know we've got one from Georgia, the technical system of Georgia. Anyone else? Anyone else from out of state? Well, wonderful. So glad that you were able to make it. Okay. How many of you have seen something similar to this before? Oh, come on. Really? This is the newest version. Well, anyway, what this shows is it's a consumer price index graph, and it is showing at the top end of that, I guess it is a little bit of an eye chart, isn't it? I'm sorry. At the very top end, it shows that college textbooks and college tuition, along with hospital services, have increased by over 200% in the last 20 years, well over any other consumer items. So this is a huge problem for our students. Those of us who went to school more than 20 years ago were in a much better position to complete our education in a timely manner. It costs less. There's just no getting around it. So this is really impacting our students. And those of you who are in Florida, I'm sure, are not surprised by this. It's contributing to a huge debt problem. So in 2018, the student debt figure exceeded $1.5 trillion. This slide is a little old. Actually, students who are exiting with a four-year degree, it's closer to $30,000 in debt. That's the average. And students are more impoverished than ever. I used to think I was an impoverished student because I ate all that top ramen. Well, half of our students don't have a stable housing situation. Can you imagine trying to take classes and study without having a stable place to do that in? And over half of our students are food insecure and rely on food pantries and other assistance to get their basic nutrition. So it's a very risky business being a student these days. And of course, this is the Florida Virtual Textbook graph, and this is really the gold standard of student textbook surveys. They've been doing this, I think many of you know, since 2012. Now, many of you may have attended John's webinar. I don't know, folks attend John's webinar last month? Yeah, which was great. And things have changed just a little bit, but really not in a significant manner. So still, nearly 2/3 of students didn't purchase their textbook due to cost. Well over a third are taking different classes, fewer classes. 35% reported that they're earning poorer grades. We know that this is impacting student success and their time to completion. So what are we going to do? Open educational resources provide access for the first day of class. So this is huge. For those of you who are instructors in the classroom, you know that you're often waiting the first couple of weeks till students get the textbooks to really assign assignments and reading. Now that everyone can have access digitally. And there are low-cost print options, or students can print them themselves if they choose to do that. And more importantly, and what we're going to get into a little bit later, is that faculty can adapt these resources. So it gives you a lot of flexibility as a faculty member, and those of you who are instructional designers can assist with that. So this is what faculty most often tell us about switching to OER. I don't have to cover all the chapters in the textbook because it was so expensive. I can focus on exactly what are in my learning outcomes that I want the students to learn. I don't have to change based on the publisher's schedule. So if the publisher decides that it's time for a new textbook, I don't have to make that change with an open educational resource. I can decide to stay with the version I have right now, and I can update when I want to. And finally, you can customize for course outcomes and engagement. So you can mix it up. It doesn't have to be just a textbook. It could be a video. It could be any material. and I think I've got any teaching, learning, or resource material in any medium that's been released under an intellectual property license that allows its free reuse or repurposing. Or it could be in the public domain. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that license in a minute, but those are the Creative Commons licenses. And those are the licenses that open up the copyright so that they can be reused, and you as a faculty member don't have to worry about a copyright violation. So, just to give you a stark example, here's a chemistry, introductory chemistry textbook. It's a wonderful book from Pearson. Pearson may be here. But it's that, and this is from a college bookstore in North Carolina that I gave a talk to a few months ago. Wonderful textbook by Professor Troe. It may be used here in Florida as well. But it's $335 new at the bookstore. Or you can rent it for a semester for $75.50. On the other side is an OpenStax, open textbook. How many know about OpenStax? Oh, wonderful. Okay, so they are the publisher of open textbooks for the first, I would say, the first 2 years in college or university, and they have about 30 right now, and they're excellent open textbooks. This one, of course, is free online, and there's various print options available. So it covers the same scope and sequence as the same book. So choices to make. All right, now I want to show you a really short video, and Sean, I hope you're standing by, because, you know, we're going to be thinking about what we need to do, not only at the workshop today, but when we go back to our campuses after this workshop. And this is a real fun video talking about how we really need to understand the why in order to make it.
How do I know? A lot of people, when they think of the phrase, how do I know, they always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The questions you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. If you know, like for instance, people know that I'm in comedy, but that's what I do. My why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. So I can do comedy, I can write books, I can be in a movie, because all of it is motivated by my why. In fact, I have a new web series out called Michael Jr. Break Time. We probably just did the 6th episode. It's on YouTube. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country and I do stand-up comedy, in case you know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometimes, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. And we've been filming this, and it's pretty cool. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm going to show you a clip from Winston-Salem. And I'm just talking to this guy in the audience, and he tells me that he's a musical instructor at a school. So I was like, all right, you're a musical instructor. Can you sing? Let me hear you sing a song. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Jr.'s Break Time. Check it. So you're a musical director? Yes, sir. All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Wow. That brought us in. You know what I'm saying? Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick. If you know what I'm talking about, just see if that exists. Let me see what you got. Here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what becomes more impactful because you're walking towards or in your purpose.
All right, any singers? Was important, okay? That cost piece is important. But we can take that deeper. We can take it to that second version, which is how we can improve learning for students along with lowering costs. So that's the big why. So what we've talked about was the cost of textbooks, open educational resources. That provides access to knowledge, not only to you as faculty, but also to our students. And the next step we're moving towards is knowledge creation. So our students, not just as consumers of knowledge, but also as creators and co-collaborators with you in the classroom. And that is now being referred to as open pedagogy. And do I have folks who know about open pedagogy, or are we still pretty new on that one? Okay, so, all right, well, we're going to do Open Pedagogy 101 in, 10 minutes. So this is the short version, and if you need additional resources, I'd be happy to share those. So before we do that, I just want to make it clear what the Creative Commons licenses provide for you. So these are the permissions of OER. So you can revise the material and modify an openly licensed material. You can remix it, so you can take 2 open textbooks, switch up the chapters. You could add a video, you could add another resource in from some other document, and you can reuse it over and over again with no limitation. So you're not renting it, that license is not revocable. You can redistribute it, whatever you produce, either to your students or colleagues. You can post this on a public website because it has an open license. And you can retain it forever. So that's a really important piece because now many of our students are renting their textbooks instead of buying them because it's less expensive. And then they have it for 1 semester. And so if they end up having to retake the course, they're paying for it again, or if they end up needing to refer to it as they go on in the sequence, if it's missing. So this is a really wonderful values for that. Now, first of all, I want to talk about engaging students at a relatively simple level, and this is something that many colleges have students who work in the bookstore. Now, with open textbook development and resources at colleges, students are being hired as workers to do graphic design for the textbooks that are being produced. They're also helping with formatting, sometimes actually creating content under the guidance of their instructors. So these are very promising practices that students can use also on their resume. But I want to take you deeper into the classroom and what can be done in there. And this is often referred to as renewable assignments or eliminating the disposable assignment. So the typical disposable assignment is that you assign a research paper to a student. And the student goes off and does the research at the library or online. And they write the paper and they turn it in. You grade it, return the paper to the student so they have the grade, and the paper pretty much gets tossed. It
probably wasn't too meaningful to the student. You as the instructor didn't reuse the material, it just went into the process of grading it. So looking at ways to provide students with more meaningful assignments that are learner-centered, so maybe they have a little bit more choice around what that research is, publishing that to a wider audience so that they're getting feedback beyond from just you, and connecting it to the community and the real world. So does that make sense? And because of that open license, these can be shared throughout. It can be shared publicly in any format, but of course online is today's format. So I want to give you some great examples of that are occurring right now. So there is a foundation called Wiki Education. Do folks know about Wiki Education? Yeah, wonderful. So they are dedicated to engaging students and academics to improve Wikipedia. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, where do students go for most of their information? Wikipedia. So this is actually a program to have students critically analyze, evaluate, and contribute to Wikipedia. And Wiki Education has a whole outreach program around this. There is an outreach person, Samantha Wield, who will work with you. They work with thousands of students and, not thousands of instructors, but thousands of students each year to go through this process of having students write their own research, edit, and collaborate with students around the world. They have a toolkit that also has a dashboard, so for you as an instructor, you can see what's happening with your students and how their research and their edits are going. So it's an amazing program, and it's free to educators. So, and it's such a wonderful opportunity for students to learn how to communicate with a wider audience. We're not just talking about being successful in college or university, which of course is important, but we're talking about creating success out in the real world where they're going next and building on their skills for that. All right. Our next one is from a professor up in Canada, Dr. Rajiv Janjagani, who's a psychology professor. He adapted an open textbook, so he created the international version of this open textbook, The Principles of Social Psychology. He's a psychology professor, if I didn't mention that. But there was no testing. And so some of you who have made the transition to open know that not all of the open textbooks have all the ancillaries that you're used to. So test days, it could be slides. And so he worked with his students over the semester, kind of scaffolding it through to have them create questions with him, which of course contributed to their deeper learning of the material that they were studying together. And by the end of that semester, he had 1,400 questions, test-based questions, that corresponded to this textbook, which he then made available to other faculty to reuse. So another way to really engage your students in metacognition, really getting involved in their learning. Last but not least, and I want to say there are many examples of this open pedagogy, and you can Google it. It's that Open Pedagogy Notebook. There's just, I'm not sure if it's hundreds. I'm looking over here at Nicole. But there's many, many examples of open pedagogy that are being implemented at universities and colleges. This particular one is at Montgomery College. They're a college up in Maryland, a large urban college, about 60,000 students. And they created an open pedagogy fellowship for their faculty to help their faculty create these renewable assignments. And this particular one is aligned with the UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals, which are they're really focused on social justice, entrepreneurship, community activism. And so they actually had some students last summer who took on bicycle riding in their particular city and how that would contribute to less traffic congestion and pollution, and they did a whole study on that. And they actually were able to present this at the United Nations. I think it was back in DC in the summer in one of the sessions. So an amazing learning opportunity for students. in creating these meaningful, real-world, connected assignments. All right. How are we doing on time? We're in good shape. All right. So now, and I think we actually have 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask you to get up and just stand up, and I'm going to find somebody that you don't know, preferably. If you can, that's all right. And I want you to spend 1 minute each, you telling that person how you're going to lead at your college. 1 or 2 things you're going to do when you go back, and then reverse. So we're going to take about 3 minutes to do this.
Okay, go ahead and switch if you will. Once again, you can go ahead and switch. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you will have a seat at this time. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, have a seat at this time.
You guys had a lot to say. I'm just gonna, because of time, I can't let all of you share, although I would love to. How about if we try someone from out in this area? Can someone out here share one thing that either you or your correspondent had to say? Okay. All right. Do we have a volunteer? Oh, wonderful. Go right ahead.
I was going to say, I'm Albert. That's some mistake. Could you say that? Sure. My name is Ross Chestner. I'm from Florida Southwest State College. I met Albert, who is a faculty member in business. And he's created an OER course, and he is thinking the way that he can lead now is to create another OER course and begin to help with adjuncts that teach that same course understand how to use it. And perhaps we talk about understanding the why behind it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you both. All right. We have another volunteer. That wasn't too hard. And did you all hear that? He has created an OER course in business. He's working on another one. And I think the really wonderful thing to hear was that he's going to work with his adjuncts to adopt that as well. I know there's got to be more out there. Tom, what are you going to do? I'm going to pick on Tom because I know Tom too, instructional designer at Florida Virtual Campus.
This one, my name is Tom too. I'm a staff from Florida Virtual Campus, and I just got to meet our wonderful colleague, Anastasia, and she shared that she received an OER grant that she developed OER resources that can be used by everybody. And also, she has been using and supporting the Orange Globe, the Florida Digital Repository that are serving the students and faculty members. And I am the Orange Globe administrator at Florida Virtual Campus, so this is a great knowledge and experience and connection. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Anastasia. We have one more over here. Yes.
Hi, good morning. You're Brenda, Florida A&M University. I spoke with my colleague here who I did not know, Ms. Jacqueline, and she was telling me that they have developed a textbook for the first year experience classes for the undergraduate students. One of the things that we talked about was possibly getting or having the students also create a professional development textbook, because the students really aren't buying the textbook because they don't feel like it's worth that $35, $45. And so that's one way that we can kind of lead the change through talking to each other and seeing what we've done across campus to kind of piggyback on that and help facilitate that change in other divisions.
Wonderful. Thank you. So 3 wonderful examples. I'm sure there's 50 more out here. I want to get to the Q&A in case there's any Q&A that we want to talk about, but I did want to mention just a change leadership discussion that we had at CCCOER. It was part of our December new mixer meeting, and I had 2 folks. I had a VP of Academic Technology and Innovation and the former bookstore manager from a small college in Wisconsin talking about leadership and where you lead from. So the former bookstore manager is now the manager of Open Instructional Services. It's Cindy Dominica at Nicollet Technical College, 3,000 students in kind of a rural part of Wisconsin. She said, lead from where you are. She was asked to look into OER 2 years ago, and she started working with librarians and faculty around this, and then her job morphed into the manager of Open Instructional Services. She still spends 20% of her time in the bookstore. And I said, well, why? It sounds like you've moved on. She said, the bookstore has an important role to play. I know when the publishers, the commercial publishers, are going to revision their textbooks. That's a great time for me to contact faculty and say, do you know there's a new version coming up this semester? And here are some open textbooks you might want to look at as an alternative. You're going to be making a change anyway. Maybe you should consider this. The VP of Academic Technology and Innovation shared with me, alleviate the fear of failure. This is a big change for faculty. They're moving away from all those publisher resources that they may become very dependent upon. And, you know, are excellent resources in many ways. So we need to provide support to faculty. We need to provide librarians who have those skills around curation, instructional designers to help them put their courses together, and also mentoring as they start teaching that first semester. And I know there's a gentleman out here, the first semester you're teaching with OER, you know, questions come up, and it's wonderful to have another faculty member who can mentor you. So providing that makes a big difference in making it safe for faculty to make the move. Both of them said listen and learn from others. But, you know, I think we know about that in education. We don't go it alone. And speak with passion. So Cindy said, I noticed a huge difference if I went in and spoke with passion. It was infectious. People could see the passion I was bringing to it. So a little bit more of the why. All right, and I did just want to do a call out to the 2 amazing colleges, Broward College and Florida State College at Jacksonville. And I think somebody's here from Florida State College at Jacksonville, right? Is Jill Hagerman here? Maybe she's coming later. I know she had to drive down. They were grantees from Achieving the Dream for the first OER degree initiative that John mentioned earlier, 38 colleges in 13 states. Broward did a business degree, and they, this last semester alone, they served 3,600 students with these OER degrees, and this is an entire business degree where there are no textbook costs because they're using open educational resources. They have, in last academic year, Broward College, along with their OER degree and their no textbook cost courses, they saved students $4.5 million, one semester alone. So pretty impressive numbers. Florida State College of Jacksonville also developed a degree. Theirs was a general studies OER degree. 24 courses were developed in that process. They saved students last semester $892,000, and they're targeting, I think it's cumulative, they're targeting $1.4 million at the end of spring 19. They also got a Florida OER Challenge grant, and I'm not familiar with this actually, but John and others in the room maybe, and through that grant that they're working on now, they're developing a business OER degree. So that's what we're finding with the colleges, that from once they get that first OER or ZTZ degree in place, it's very easy to move to the next one. It's because they get a general ed pathway for students that's openly licensed materials, and then all they need to do is the 4 to 6 courses within the major. It's really encouraging to see that progress. Open Education Week is coming up next week. How many of you know about Open Education Week? Oh, wonderful. So it's a global celebration of open education. There's many online events. Many colleges and universities do events on their campus to create awareness and have fun around open with both their students and their faculty. You can go to the site and check out all the events that are coming up. CCCOER has a faculty dialogue Monday through Friday. I think we're starting with sociology on Monday. It's at, let's see, we're on Eastern time here. It's at 3 p.m. Eastern. For 45 minutes, we'll have 2 to 3 faculty who have adopted OER discussing their adoption process. We didn't do business, so I'm sorry. I didn't have enough faculty for business, but we've got math, sociology, administration of justice. But it is on the website, and we encourage you to come if any of those would be fun. We do record them as well, so you can catch them later. If you're working with faculty in specific disciplines, I think it would be very effective to share this with them. And this happens every year. My parent organization, which is the Open Ed Consortium, sponsors this. I'd love to have you join our community. It is open to all educators who are interested. We have an email list, and actually I'll put the sheet in the back if you'd like to sign up that way, the old-fashioned way. We also have a link on our website under Get Involved, under CCCOER.org. Get Involved. You can join our group email list, open to all educators who are interested in open. And it's a great peer support list, and we also share with you all these events that are occurring, online conferences and so forth, so to keep up to date on what's happening in the conference and so forth. And here's a few of the people who've presented with us over the last couple of years, and we'd love to add you to this wonderful collage. And I think we have about 5 minutes for questions. I think they're gonna mic you.
I am all for students not having to pay for textbooks. What do the publishers get out of it? Is what my concern is.
Sorry, what is your question?
What do the publishers get out of it? Because when we have these free textbooks, I mean, right now we're using e-textbooks with some of our students and some of our courses. So it's kind of, for me, kind of how is this sustainable, I guess, is maybe what I'm asking, because I don't know how that process works.
Right. So there's many ways to look at that. It is a transformation of the process. What we're seeing with a lot of state governments or statewide systems, they're seeing the value for their students, and so they're bringing this, initially they're doing grants around the development, and so there's faculty are receiving stipends, there's also reassigned time for various faculty and staff who are working on the projects. And slowly over time that's becoming operationalized into regular funding. And it's part of faculty development, it's part of becoming getting more professional within your discipline. So it's an excellent question. And I want to add that many of our colleges are looking at equity, student equity as an initiative, and it's being funded. And OER is a wonderful tool in that toolkit. And so aligning with those strategic initiatives on your campus, and you can easily make the case that OER is helping with student equity. So looking to align with those and help them be more successful, and also to continue the OER funding stream. And tutoring, there's many, many areas where there's overlap.
Good morning.
Yes.
I heard you mention that the benefit of this is that professors can use these materials over and over. Is there a danger that they use them over and over without the benefit of updates? With publishers, you're going to get every 2 to 3 years, you're going to get the latest and greatest.
Yeah, great question. So, most of our curriculum committees have a time limit, even on commercial products. It's usually 5 to 7 years. So we're not going to throw that out the window. I think you're still going to be playing with the curriculum requirements of your college. And I do think that updating is an important piece of that. And I know that I work with colleges where there are departments that have written all the sociology textbooks that are offered in a 2-year degree. And they actually, every 2 years, they have a 2-year cycle for revising the textbooks. So one summer they do half of them, and then the next summer they do the other half. No, it's absolutely important question. Thank you.
So I just want to speak on that too, and back up maybe what you're trying to explain. And to me, you own the content. That's the important part, is that you're in control of updating that textbook. So you don't have to wait 3 years to put in a current event that happened that can show some sort of social issue that you want to bring into class. You can do that right then and there. You don't have to wait for the publisher to write that into your book. So it does take maintenance, but you should always be maintaining your course and keeping them up to date anyway. So it should be a part of the process, I think.
Thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely a really good point, that you don't have to wait for a new version of the textbook to do an update if it needs to be done. And it depends on what discipline you're in. Obviously, some disciplines change quite a bit, social studies and things like that. It's like Wendy's gonna. So, once again, it was a real pleasure, and I'll be around for the next 2 days and would love to have conversations with any of you who are interested.